Hi, it's Alex from laughingplace.com here today with a review of the filmed version of Hamilton, the Broadway musical, coming to Disney Plus on July 3rd. As you may be able to tell, I am a fan of the show. I have seen it twice actually in theaters, first time in Chicago, second time in Orlando. Never on Broadway though, and never with the original Broadway cast. So that's what's really unique about this filmed version, is it is all of the original performers from the Broadway show. It was filmed back in June of 2016, and so you're getting to see Lin-Manuel Miranda as Hamilton, you're getting to see Daveed Diggs, all of the original cast members from the show are in this filmed version. If you are a fan of the show and have seen it live, I'm just going to preface this by saying there's a few things about the filmed version that are going to take you out of the show. If you've never seen it before, you probably won't notice any of the things that I'm going to highlight in this video, and for that reason, you will love this. It's the show. It gives you all of the same goosebumps feelings, all of the big musical moments. That being said, the biggest difference between seeing a filmed version of a stage show and the stage show yourself is when you're seeing it live in the theater. First of all, it's the only version of that show that there will ever be, because there's always at least slight differences in each and every performance. So you're seeing something unique that nobody else gets to see other than the other people around you in the theater when you go to see something live. The other thing about seeing a show live in a theater is you're kind of the art director, in terms of you get to pick what you're looking at, what your attention is focused on, and when. And when you're watching a filmed version, somebody else is doing that for you. They are clearly manipulating the way the camera is looking so that you are focused on whatever is in the center of the screen. So there's things that you're going to see in this production that you might not have noticed if you saw it live on stage. Vice versa, if you go to see the live show someday, you will notice things that you don't get to see in this film production. Now, prior to the film's release, Lin-Manuel Miranda had already acknowledged that 2 F-bombs were being omitted from the film, so it is slightly censored. And I'll talk a little bit about the way they do that. The first one is in Hercules Mulligan's rap, and for that one, because it's weird, they do each one differently. For the Hercules Mulligan one, he looks up so they don't have to blur his mouth, and they just cut out his mic for that moment. And then it picks right back up right after that word would be said. So it's not like a bleep. They didn't replace that word. It's just all of a sudden in the middle of this very fast rap, there's a pause. And that one takes you out of it a little bit, especially if you know how that song goes. And the other one, later in the show, it's almost like a record skip. You know, it's in another fast part of the show, and all of a sudden you just fast forward, you know, however many milliseconds that word takes to say, and it's done. There is one in the show, and I was consciously waiting to hear it, and it goes so fast that it's like a minute later, you're like, oh yeah, there it was. So it's kind of a non-issue. I think most kids will miss it. So they kind of picked the right one to keep in to get the PG-13 rating. But one of the things that's kind of awkward about it is later in the show, and this is in the live show, there's a part where they bleep out Hamilton saying the word. And it's funny in the show, he's saying the mother version of the word. And it's funny in the show, he says mother and then bleep. That's in this version too, so that's an intentionally censored one from the show. But when you get to that one, it's like, why didn't they just handle them all like that and be consistent? I don't know. But that's a minor thing to nitpick. The other thing that's a little bit awkward about the filmed version is it was filmed over the course of several performances, one live with an audience, and then they filmed select musical numbers again without an audience there. When it's the live show, most of the cameras are situated closer to the back of the house, sometimes zooming in. So a lot of the really wide shots are from the live show. They also had a camera overhead, so sometimes they'll cut to above, that's from the live show, and also sometimes behind the actors looking out into the house, and that was hidden in a brick in the back wall. So those cameras are from the live show, but whenever you get really extreme close-ups of the actors, whenever the camera is panning around them, that's obviously a cameraman or a crane going over people's heads, and those were the no audience involved performances. And what's really awkward about them is they're kind of Frankenstein editing these together. So you get the opening number where everyone's making their entrances, which is clearly no audience present. So there's no applause when Lin-Manuel Miranda takes the stage. Even if you're seeing the show without Lin-Manuel Miranda, when the actor playing Alexander Hamilton comes on stage, everybody applauds. So it was awkward watching that first number. I believe the entire thing is no audience, because even when they finish the musical number Alexander Hamilton, it just goes right into the next number with no applause. So just weird things like that. It's not until the second number that you start to get audience reactions. One of my favorite parts of the show is when the King, who's played by Jonathan Groff in this production, comes out to sing his first song, and it's hilarious. Even just the way he looks is funny. So when you're seeing it with a live audience, people are starting to snicker and chuckle just as he's starting his whole shtick. Even before he says a word, there's usually some people laughing already. And you hear like crickets until midway through the song, when you can tell very obviously that it switches from the show with no actors, or show with no audience, to the show with an audience. And so those moments took me out of the show and are the only reasons why I can't really call this a perfect production. For an example of how another show filmed version kind of overcame those obstacles is Disney's version of Newsies, which is on Disney+. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check it out. But they filmed that at the end of its tour in Los Angeles. They reunited some of the original cast for that recording. And what they did was they gave tickets away. So nobody was paying to see this show. So when there's interruptions, you know, it's just part of the deal. You're seeing it for free. That way they get a live audience. And they did everything in one day, I believe. And it was longer than the normal show because they would pause the show and say, okay, we're gonna go back and we're gonna retake this number, but get some different angles. Or we're gonna show you the number once as you would normally see it. And then we're gonna put some cameramen on the stage and redo that number to get some close-ups. But that way, they always had audience interaction. And I mean, this is something that goes back to the days of filming I Love Lucy. They brought in a live studio audience on I Love Lucy because they knew that Lucille Ball was going to be 10 times funnier if she had an audience responding to what she was doing. That's basically where the live studio audience came from, was kind of tracking from theater into television and needing that feedback from the audience, which then also tells you as a viewer at home, this is funny and I should be laughing too. So it is awkward in these moments in Hamilton, and they could have probably overcome it in editing by taking audience audio and putting it over the filmed production from when they didn't have the audience there. And I honestly don't know why they didn't, because they're getting everyone's individual mics. That's how they're able to eliminate those F words when they need to. So they're getting the audio from everyone's individual mics. They probably have mics in the audience to capture that ambient noise. In fact, I'm pretty sure they do, because there's an intermission. It's 1 minute long, and it is just ambient audio noise and a camera pointed at the stage with a countdown clock going on the screen. And if you don't have the live audio from the audience, fake it. I think it would have made it less awkward. But other than that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know I'm griping on these two criticisms. They're the only criticisms I have. Otherwise, it's still Hamilton. You're going to love the show. There's just these things that take you out of it if you're already familiar with the product. And if you're not, this is the cheapest way you will ever get to see it. It's $6.99 per month to have Disney Plus and see Hamilton. And definitely everybody check it out this Friday. Don't let my words discourage you from doing that. It's a perfect way to celebrate 4th of July weekend for those of you watching from the United States. And I hope that you've enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye.